Let me bring in MSNBC aviation analyst John Cox, FAA licensed commercial pilot Anthony Roman, and managing partner for Airline Weekly, Seth Kaplan. Let me start with you, Seth. How surprised are you at this development that the CEO of Lufthansa says, even after what apparently happened, they don't see the need to change that?
Yeah, Jose, I am surprised. I thought that was a very fair question that your correspondent Katie asked, and perhaps a bit, don't mean to overstate the case, but arrogant to say that based on, I think he said, a single incident, we wouldn't need to change that. So, and again, to set this up, we are talking about an airline with an excellent safety record, but if there's any single incident that would indeed cause us to reconsider this, that would be the one, because I mean, let's face it, had there been somebody else in the cockpit, it's pretty hard to say that there might not at least have been a different outcome.
Yeah, Anthony, talk to me about that scene inside a cockpit, because it seems as though that whoever is in that reinforced cockpit has the opportunity to kind of use a switch to override anybody from the outside using the outside cockpit. You see that photo that we have on the left of your screen. Apparently you can, through that commonly known code, get into the cockpit even if it's locked. But then on the right, there's that override switch.
Yes, the flying pilot, if he is alone or she is alone in the cockpit, can override the entry mechanism outside of the armored door for approximately 5 to 20 minutes. Their choice. There is also a dead the inside of the cockpit door, which allows the pilot to manually close that door in the event there's a failure of the 3 electronic mechanisms. Now, let's dissect what happened here and why the prosecutor would say this was a criminal act. How could they know that? Well, let's take a look at it. There was normal conversation between the captain and the first officer from takeoff to the point the captain exited the cockpit. That captain apparently had no clue that this co-pilot might have had a nefarious intent or be suffering from a psychological problem. Following the incident, the co-pilot is absolutely silent. So we can ask ourselves, what is the motive? Is it labor related? Is it politically related? Is it religiously related? When one considers that, one would think that the co-pilot would then make a statement, either on the radio or out loud. There have been circumstances and precedents for this in the past, where there have been religious and political motives and labor dispute motives, where the crew member became violent or attempted to crash the airplane, where they've made statements. That is established. What else could there be? A psychological problem. And I believe that this is the reason why the prosecutor was so intent in saying that this was a deliberate act.
And John, the fact that at no time, according to that prosecutor, at no time did that co-pilot, once he had initiated and taken control of that plane and started that descent that ended in the Alps, at no time did he speak, did he even, it says he was breathing normally.
I think this we're going to learn from the voice recorder as further analysis is undertaken with it. That now that we're focused on a criminal act, they're going to take that voice recorder and get every bit of information out of it that they can. One thing to consider that you were talking about a moment ago with the comments from the CEO of Lufthansa and their unwillingness to consider changes, that may not be their choice. The regulators, EASA, and the security organizations that oversee operations of airlines in Europe, they may very well mandate that. So the decision may not be in the hands of Lufthansa at all. This is something that you see with some other regulators in different places around the world. So unquestionably, the security protocols are going to be reviewed very, very carefully, and if there are recommendations made to the regulators and to the security agencies, they may very well be mandated.
And Anthony, take me, because one of the other things in the headlines that we got out of this press conference is that the co-pilot had taken a leave for some reason, of his training 6 years ago, and then he resumed that training. And since that time, the CEO and others at Lufthansa say they saw no red flags. Is it unusual? Would it have been something that could have created doubt in authorities if a pilot in training takes time off for a very specific reason?
You know, training to become a pilot is a very rigorous endeavor. It is filled with stressors. Individuals interrupt their flight training all of the time as a result of personal family reasons, work commitments, changing their mind. They don't feel it's for them. They're progressing as well in the flight training as they believe they should. There are a whole host of reasons. But I think now the criminal investigators will focus like a laser beam on that issue and conduct an investigation relative to that period in time. What did he do? What did he say to his companions and to his family? What were his activities? I think this is going to be one of the major focuses amongst other focuses in the investigation.
And Seth, when you see an incident like this and you think, gosh, if someone had been in that cockpit along with that co-pilot, maybe things would have been different, as you said. But every country has different set of rules and regulations, and then every airline then can decide what they incorporate or not incorporate other than those nationally put in rules.
Exactly. There are those broad mandates, as you said, and then airlines have their procedures. And Jose, the frustrating thing is that it's hard to optimize for everything. I mean, let's consider for a moment that reinforced cockpit door that's so difficult to enter, that's there partly because of 9/11. And the idea was, that if anything, the people inside the cockpit are more trustworthy than somebody perhaps outside the cockpit trying to get in. So hard to on one hand try to secure that environment in that way, and on the other hand, make it possible for somebody to enter in this way. Although, even having said that, I should say that a couple of the very famous pilot murder-suicides, or apparently so anyway, occurred before 9/11. Egypt Air Flight 990, right, most famously from JFK to Cairo. Here you had a pilot trying to enter. So even then, it's not as if the doors were totally insecure. Just very difficult, as I said, to take care of all the considerations. And sometimes when you solve one problem, you do leave a possibility for another.
Seth Kaplan, Anthony Roman, and John Cox, thank you so very much. We're going to continue, of course.